Welcome to Mastering Innovation Together with Kevin Mobley of Annabelle Mac and Cheese and Chris Koomey of Thorben Consulting. And Kevin, you've been involved with a lot of different businesses over the years, and I know the Annabelle Mac and Cheese is now your favorite. It's really kind of at the top of all your businesses that you've been involved with. So tell us how you got started with that and what some of the innovations were that have kept you going and kept you growing.
Sure. 2018, I was at a farmer's market that I'd been going to for years, and I went to the market manager and said, "Hey, I've got this mac and cheese. When I make it at home, people take it home, even when it wasn't intended. They'll just take home whatever's left over." And this has been going on for years, and it's my great grandmother's recipe, and I would love to try it out here as a product to see if we can make a go of it and see if people are interested in purchasing it. We tried it out for Thanksgiving, sold out. Tried it out for Christmas and sold out, and the business was born. It sort of checked so many boxes for me personally. I've obviously been in cooking for a long time. In fact, when I was in undergrad, you said something to me that was incredibly important. You said, "Hey, if you ever want to figure out if you want to do something, do it for free, volunteer at it, and you'll find that if you have a real passion for it, and obviously the person you're doing it free for, you become loyal. They'll become loyal to you because of your passion." So I tried out when I went to grad school at Georgia Tech, and then I went to work for a defense contractor as an engineer. But then I took a day where I went and volunteered in a restaurant, and ultimately decided I didn't be a chef because just the nature of being a chef wasn't appealing. However, in a commercial setting, but the idea of doing something food related always stuck with me. And so here it was now, fast forward 20 some odd years later, and I tried this out as a business, and yeah, we had something. We got adopted by the High Corporation in the middle of COVID, so we moved our operation into that. That gave us a real infrastructure to scale. We scaled, literally 300% in the first year. And so, the business was up and running. We've been in national magazines like Forbes magazine. We've been on national TV like Fox and Friends. We've been in a lot of local publications, and we built a loyal following. For me, it's innovation in a maybe in a slightly different way. A lot of us spend a lifetime trying to figure out kind of what we're good at and what we kind of want to do and how we want to grow old. And for me, this is the ability to just combine a lot of passions. I always tell people that as much as I've worked on really sophisticated systems involving hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, I get more joy out of giving someone a dollar sample of mac and cheese at the farmer's market than oftentimes saving a Fortune 10 company a major technical problem. And mostly because of just the human interaction and the literal sense of satisfaction, the smiles, the comments, the Instagram is just full of all this customer testimonials. So there's an incredible human aspect to that you don't get oftentimes working in a bureaucratic organization.
And part of that, it also goes to how you've grown. You started out, this was very person to person at farmers markets.
Mhm.
And then a year or so ago, you started to be able to distribute nationally. And now you're distributing, into stores. So how did you get into those three different avenues, and what other avenues are you looking at to continue to distribute this passion that you've got?
Well, some of it's just trial and error. I mean, we had an online presence from the very well, definitely from the time we went into the High, we had an online presence, and I think we probably even before that. But we started once we kind of get those national publications, we started getting orders from across the country. But that's not really where our current growth is. I have a strong philosophy about what's wrong with our food system, that it's simply too centralized, and that we don't have a lot of reliability and rigor in our system. When we saw this in COVID, and when one plant went down, we lost 1/3 of our capacity to produce a particular thing, and we just don't have that redundancy that we used to have. And I had actually given a speech about this before COVID, just because I was at a local food conference and talking about the very question about when you have a small business like we have, what are your ambitions on scale? And I said, well, first of all, own the local markets you're in. We're in Metro Atlanta. There's almost 8 million people, depending on how you define Metro Atlanta. That's a lot of customer acquisition. I always tell people if we gain 10% of that, that's 800,000 customers. We sell to them 3 times a year. That's 2.4 million sales per year. And our cheapest product is retails at about $11 a product. So that's over almost a $30 million business right there, just in Metro Atlanta. So and if we had more companies like ours focusing hyper locally, and even if they were doing the exact same thing, you start to get some redundancy. in that system. You learn those customers, you build something that's really tailored to that market. And we do the things that we do. We source from a local farm. So we're not hauling in product from all across the globe. I mean, we do some things across the globe because we have to get wheat currently from Italy, and that just has to do with how we grow wheat in this country. But one of our biggest items in our product is dairy. And so we're able to at least source that locally. And so if we were to replicate in other metro areas, that's the first thing I would do is look for a local farm. And then get to know those, continue to get to know those customers in that market. I spend a lot of time in our stores in Metro Atlanta. And that's where we gain a lot of intelligence. And we do get inquiries, and we do service a few stores outside of Metro Atlanta. We have some in Virginia and North Carolina, and a few other throughout the Southeast. But we really concentrate the sales effort and the service effort around Metro Atlanta because of the amount of intelligence I can gather as a business owner. I'm learning a lot. I've never done retail. I've always been in the technology space and in the B2B space. So here I am now in the sort of B2B/B2C space and in retail, and it's a very different animal. I'll get asked questions all the time, but hey, do you want to scale into Whole Foods or Publix or Costco, whoever? And I'll say, of course, I'll take the phone call. But understand what you're getting when you get that phone call. No one at Whole Foods is going to walk down the aisle and say, hey, have you heard of Annabelle? You want to buy some? They're just selling you retail space, and they're selling you shelf space based on the discounts that you offer them. And so it's my job to know how to sell my product to whoever's in whatever store. And so I'm learning how to do that with these local partners, who I get incredible access to the owners. I get incredible access to staff. I get incredible access to customers, and I get a lot of intelligence. And that for me is more important than being able to throw a marquee name up on my website and says, you can find us at Publix or whoever. And that's not to disrespect, the opportunity to be in that distribution chain. But right now, the focus is on the local, and it also fits philosophically with what I believe, that we need a really local focus. We need local food systems. We need local stores. We need local ownership. We need people reinvested in our community.
So what you've really done, where a lot of the food, kind of our national food policy, is to get things as simple and as cheap as possible. What you're doing is actually adding some complexity based on relationships. And that's really where the innovation is to keep those relationships growing and make mutually beneficial relationships so that everybody has a piece of your success.
Yeah. So like, I'll tell you, when you talk about innovation, I tell this story every time I travel out across the globe, and I've been blessed to go to 26 different countries, and a lot of countries where they're trying to become like America. And I'll say to them, I said, look, you should leapfrog us. I said, because our food system is the source of our health issues. Mac and cheese may not be thought about as a health food, but it's a comfort food, and it's something that's one of the few truly American foods that we've ever created. And we use incredibly clean products in it as a way to do what Tesla has done to try to demonstrate clean energy in the car space. We create something attractive, and then we hopefully get people to ask more questions about where their other foods come from. So when I look at a story, I have friends that grow large amounts of vegetables out in California. When you go out to their farms, every vegetable looks exactly identical. And if anyone's ever had a home garden, they know that's impossible. And it's done that way because the watering regimen, the fertilizer, the seed usage, all is dictated by big ag. And then that turn goes into a huge amount of storage containers. And then that goes on to rail cars. And I've got another buddy of mine that's in the pest control space, and he sent me this picture from one time in this crazy looking hazmat suit. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I'm spraying up these rail cars because they've got to be able to hold our produce for weeks or months at on end until the big stores say, hey, we want them. So when you look at just from a health standpoint, the amount of manipulation and chemicals used to deliver something to look perfect. So when you walk into the store and you pick up that tomato, you pick up that avocado, and you say, oh, this looks beautiful. You think it's fresh. That thing could be weeks, if not months old. And it's designed to be that way. And that's to drive down costs. That's to make sure that reliability is predictable, so it's a guaranteed revenue, more stores operate on very thin margins, and the like. I reject all those things. Obviously, from a pure health standpoint, it's just not worth it. That a little bit of money you save on the front end on that tomato is not worth it for the $50,000 to $100,000 you spend on the back end for a major health event, or millions in some cases. And so my favorite customers for our product, one of our favorites is kids. If we can get kids asking questions, not only when they listen to me tell the story that, hey, we got this non-GMO grass-fed organic milk and cream from this local farm, and these organic noodles from Italy, and this aged cheddar from England. When I tell them that quick story, I hope the kids remember to ask that question about everything else that they're consuming. And we repeat the story over and over and over and over. And I challenge any food provider to say the same thing. I get disheartened when I go to a lot of restaurants because I know what they're using in the kitchen, and I know there's not very good ingredients, regardless of how expensive or inexpensive the food is. And that directly affects our health.
And so it's really about embracing new ways of doing things is where your innovation is. And so Kevin Mobley, thanks so much for talking about Annabelle's mac and cheese, and people can find that online. And if you're in the Atlanta area, I'm sure you know someone who really likes it a lot. So thank you, Kevin Mobley.
You're welcome.
Thank you for mastering innovation together today with Thorben Consulting. This is Chris Koomey. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy the show, if you have any comments, questions, or just want to learn more about what we do. Thanks for joining us.